welcome back to a pod full of Saints on Tuesday, the 8th of July 2025. After a little sabbatical, well, we took in what happened at the fans forum. Well, the two who were there, one of us couldn't be bothered, and generally look at the outcome of it and spit it out with disgust. Right, we're going to go through that and look at the new signings as well, and a wonderful array of pre-season friendlies, I expect. Be myself, David Tavener, the always chuckling Jake Ellacott.
Carl, it's an exciting lineup this episode, isn't it? I bet people cannot wait.
And the brightly coloured Lee Wood.
Positive vibes, positive vibes, positive vibes. We're all about the vibes today, fellas. Come on, let's make it chipper.
Yes, we'll be upbeat, and the Saints are going up, obviously, is the mantra for this season. Well, I didn't go to the fans forum, but you two were there. There's an account of it on the Saint City Trust website. It won't come up on my computer, so I'm just looking at a blank wall at the moment. And you two will now tell us exactly what happened and how well the outcome of it has gone down with supporters, well, those that are still following the club.
Go on, Lee.
Well, hang on a minute, mate. Seeing as you got a personal name check by the owner, I think you should be kicking this off.
Okay.
What did he say? Thanks for us, I wasn't there.
He watches the pod.
It was certainly speaking to supporters yesterday actually about it. It was an event of two halves, wasn't it? It's fair to say, Lee. First half was interesting, and I think it's fair to say it was what we expected. It was fans clear in their disappointment and anger potentially with the ticketing decisions, wasn't it? And making that clear to the owner and sort of just the owner and those involved in the club pushing back, essentially, wasn't it? I think that was the first half, and the second half was the management team, who I will say spoke really well, and most supporters were at least positive about that. Ian Culverhouse, Paul Bastock, Harry Wheeler, all three of them contributed and spoke well, and I think was at least one bright spot from that evening. But of course, the ticketing was a big chat, big discussion, and emotions at points they ran high, didn't they?
Mm. Yeah, it was. I mean, you've hit it on the head, and I was explaining to Ian Culverhouse after the whole thing had finished, with the greatest possible respect, we weren't here to listen to them because we knew that side of things was going to be okay. As you say, emotions were running quite high. There were some tears as well, which I think it's the first time I believe the club have really made it clear that the financial bottom line has superseded the need for the fans. And I think, I'm trying to put this, Lawrence got his arse handed to him, but I think he almost expected it. There were some comments from volunteers and fans, well-balanced opinions about how they could have sort of gone about this in a different way. I think there was just a stone-headedness from Lawrence throughout. And I think that some fans probably saw a side of him that they haven't done previously. I think the amount of comments towards that particular subject on the ticketing, I think it really did get to him. I think he let his guard down on occasion. I think he let himself down on occasion. But all in all, no one was really shouting and hollering. It wasn't like a real sort of tirade of abuse. There were well thought out, balanced, educated, articulate arguments as into why the club shouldn't go down this particular road. They've continued to do so. And I think they've seen now that the low number of season tickets to date has shown that the fans just won't tolerate it anymore. And the one thing that annoys me, fellas, is that all of this could have been prevented.
Yeah, spot on. I think that's the vibe, wasn't it? I think, as you say, it was well put arguments. There wasn't anyone getting angry. I think as well, what was noticeable was it was fans, like you say, Lee. It was from across the spectrum of the football club, wasn't it? It was young, like really pretty young supporters that had turned up, more experienced supporters, if one phrase to put them, but also those supporters that have been volunteering for the club, assisting the club, carrying out duties for the club for a long time, carrying out the support of the club in the community as well. And with the passion that a lot of them spoke, about this decision. I think made it very clear that it's not unlike in 2019. I think maybe some people thought it was a small pocket of fans that were very annoyed about the ticket rise. Fair enough. But I think it's very clear this year, at least, that it is a wide range of supporters. We saw that on social media, didn't we, at the time? And I think the fans forum a couple of weeks ago made it very, very clear with the amount of fans that turned up and the opinions shared, and the arguments made as well. You know, there were some very convincing arguments, and unfortunately, they weren't swaying, were there? And I think, like you say, Lee, there was a couple of moments where certainly Lawrence maybe didn't react in a way that a lot of fans potentially expected, and I think again towards the end as well, it's just it's a real shame the way that the whole thing has been managed. And the fans forum again, I think a lot of fans went away pretty disappointed with that section, at least, of the evening.
Did they try and justify putting the price up? Season ticket, you could get an adult season ticket last summer for 265, was it? The early bird one. Now it's £315, and there are several clubs £200 under. A lot of them are even under £200, quite significantly under £200 at our level this season. Did the club try and justify why we have got this hideous price, and for 2 games fewer than we had last season as well?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it wasn't even 265; it was 250, wasn't it? The early bird last summer.
250. Okay, yeah.
And it's worth saying that one supporter printed out a league table of ticket prices, didn't they, and put them around the room beforehand. Lawrence pretty much started by grabbing it and saying, we expected this. They did try and explain, didn't they? They, like you said, it was that financial bottom line, wasn't it? They were saying the club's in a situation financially that's difficult, and we're going to see if this works, was the essential argument. I think, Lee, you can probably put a bit more flesh on the bones.
Well, it's not as much flesh on the bones, but I think the important thing to know is that I felt almost sorry for Lawrence, because he's not the only one who's come to this conclusion, but yet he's the one that's got to face, the barrage of fans. And, the rhetoric that he was coming back out with was it's all about the financial, he wants to maintain a competitive budget. This doesn't come cheap. And again, there was a bit of hypocrisy, but ultimately it does just stem down to money. There are fans, Jake, that you and I know, and they make a sort of brazen but very valid point. The fact that if you take over the running of a football club, it's almost expected that you've got to put money in. It's just how much you want to keep, continue doing that. Lawrence said that the only one season that the owners didn't put money in at all was the Forest Green season, when we got to the Cup, as a result of all of the television revenue, of course. But the thing is, this is obviously a cash flow issue at the minute, because there is no money coming in at the club. The club do rely quite heavily on that influx of season ticket money at the start of the summer. That's always nice. But again, I was chatting to someone during the interval, and if you're trying to run a business of any size, the foundation is pretty much very similar. If you're looking to consolidate finances in any way, you look at your biggest expenditure before you look at your biggest source of income, which is the supporters. And I think that's just, it doesn't really matter how you articulate it or how you address it. The fundamentals are still very much the same. And there's only so many times that supporters can be asked to dip into their pockets. I had a letter which I then shared with you, Jake, from a supporter who just financially cannot afford to come anymore. And they've been doing so for 6 or 7 years. I think that's the point that gets missed in all of this. There was a lot of emphasis on community and the fact that the club weren't going to receive certain aid from the football, from the National League, etc., etc. But ultimately, this isn't the difference between someone choosing to buy a shirt or buy a beer or buy a Chicken George. This is the difference between someone getting to watch their hometown team and not. The arguments have come and gone, and I think that they announced on the day of the forum tabs that there's going to be the 1650 advanced sales, hoping that may sort of like absorb a little bit of the pressure. But again, it was never really about that. It was just about the size of the increase of season tickets and the fact that people just can't afford that anymore. No, on the whole, people will choose whether or not. But these are people who want to come, but just can't afford to. And I think that message was being lost, which is unfortunate, because the rhetoric of community has been pounded not only at the Chiswell Green Residents Association meeting, but at the forum. The importance of community, and the club have done some absolutely wonderful things in the community. That's undisputed. But then you go and do something where people can't afford to come and watch you. You're not addressing it, and I think the fans are slowly beginning to vote with their feet.
Right, Lee, you mentioned the owner who was there is not the only one to blame for this stupidity of a price rise. John McGowan's the other owner, so he's also in it, and the general manager, Tony Gote. As much as I enjoyed talking to Tony, I like him as a person, he, as general manager, is also in on this decision, one assumes, and is equally to blame as much as the other two. They are the only three who are responsible for this fiasco with the pricing. During the meeting, I believe the owner who was there said the club lost £200,000 in season 23-24, which we brought up several times before on the podcast, because we saw it in the company results, which are on Company's House. You can read those online. I don't suppose he had the guts to tell us what that £200,000 was lost on. We are not the highest budget in the league. We got amongst the highest gates in the league for 2 seasons running. We got incredible income on the day. Where are they losing that money? It's got to be incompetence, isn't it? How can you be losing that sort of money on all those things with income? And they keep telling us how wonderful our sponsorship is and how much we're selling there. So we must be bringing in big money there as well, if they are to be believed. So where are they blowing this money every season? How do they keep losing it? It's got to come down to business incompetence somewhere, doesn't it? And also on that list, sorry, Jake, one other thing.
That's right.
Mentioned it before again. When they publish the accounts, they don't do a profit and loss account. Now, when these owners came into the club, they banged on again and again and again about how open and transparent they would be. We have not had a more closed shop, if you like, management of this club than the way it is now. We don't get details at all on finances, what it's spent on, what is coming in. It is totally closed, and we just get told, oh, we've lost 200,000. Yeah, what have you lost it on? And that they lost even more the year before, I believe. Come on, be open and transparent.
I think the main argument, Lee, wasn't it? And again, you may remember better than I, was that it was mainly the cost of the day-to-day running, wasn't it? With the increase of inflation and everything, that was the main argument. I think they also mentioned the increased costs of renting out training grounds, etc., etc. Basically, all the costs that you would associate with a football club, I would say, was sort of the general argument of why they are losing so much money. One supporter did ask and say, has any of that 200 grand gone on to investment into the new stadium plans? And that was said no, that hasn't been the contribution of it. So it is, as far as supporters can see, it is that day-to-day running of the football club, isn't it, Lee? I can't remember anything else that was mentioned in terms of increasing costs.
No, so one fan said, well, you are making this loss, and it obviously isn't sustainable in the current model, but yet the club have decided to increase the price, knowing it would alienate quite a lot of fans. They're not going to get as many fans through the turnstiles, just simply because of the quality of the away teams as well. They won't be sort of travelling in the sort of numbers that a team in National League South has done. So if it wasn't sustainable in National League South with large travelling support, how is it ever going to be sustainable with less fans coming through the gates? So it just didn't make sense. And I think Bob Bridle and Nigel Culkin and all of the volunteers that have worked hard behind the scenes at the club, when you piss them off that you're doing something really fundamentally wrong. But the one thing I did like, and Jake touched upon this as well, this was supporters of all ages. We've got some of the younger elements there, and there was a good representation, people who I hadn't seen there before. And during the interval, so the first half was all about, the owners and the ticketing prices, and obviously the second half was attributed to the footballing side. In that interval, the 15, 20 minutes, again, Jake, a lot of anger, a lot of emotion, a lot of, heated debate, and again, there was a lot of, cross words and deliberation. This isn't going away anytime soon. I think, again, I reiterate the point, this could have been prevented. I think the attitude of the club going into the forum could have been a bit better. But again, Tavs, you spoke about Tony Gautier there. I spoke really openly, and I had an excellent conversation with Tony and Harry and Joe in the interval and afterwards. Lovely people, and they I believe they want the best things for the club at heart. I'm not entirely sure how much Tony has got to say in the pricing structure, but I don't know. But you certainly think that the two co-owners, they're businessmen, and of course they've got to look after their investment. But when you are shafting fans who can't afford any more to come into the ground, then there's something wrong in terms of you are a custodian of this great football club, and they need to work harder in order to get everyone who wants to come in to be able to do so.
Well, you used the phrase shafting fans there, Lee. I'll go for the word the club discriminates against longer serving supporters. Well, you've got this bracket of 18 to 23-year-olds who can vote, they have a job, they could be married, they could go to war, they could do everything. They are adults. Why do they get a season ticket, 18, 23-year-olds, for £95, yet someone who supported the club, say, 50 years, they've got to pay 315 quid. They put in thousands, tens of thousands maybe, over the years to the club, and then they get kicked in the teeth like that. You've got to pay this higher price. No, these younger ones, they'll be gone in a few years, but we're going to just give them this bargain, ridiculously underpriced ticket. So you've got an underpriced ticket and a hideously overpriced. Why can't the two come together? It's the mismanagement of a club is shocking.
I understand that, and I also understand why the club do look at those ventures, because it has increased attendances. But what has been actually striking to me as well is how many of those fans actually agree with how poorly this has been treated as well, and how annoyed they are as well. So even while they are, as you say, Dave, get a very good deal, even they are annoyed about the situation. But I can understand, Lee, a lot of the fans we've heard from that aren't going to be going anymore are those longer-term older fans, aren't they? The ones that have been going for a long time. Even went to Harpenden for my sins the other evening, and I bumped into a few St Albans fans, and most of them saying, I may as well go to Harpenden Town. The ticket is however cheap it is. Football might not be amazing, although it's fair to say Harpenden have certainly improved in quality-wise in the last couple of years. And at least they feel like they are getting value for money there. Whereas with City, they're not at the minute, especially a lot of these fans, this whole thing, this whole situation, I think a lot of them are sort of done with the drama. They're thinking, right, I'm done. I'm just going to step away, go to a football club I'm enjoying being at. And it's a real shame. And I think, again, a lot of fans coming away from the fans forum certainly felt that way as well, in terms of, wow, didn't expect this to go like this. And unfortunately, the situation is just really sad to see off the pitch. And I think that's the annoying thing for me, is on the pitch, the summer has not been perfect, but the way Ian and Baz spoke and some of the signings we've made recently, I know some fans are excited about that, but then they're having to counter that with the off the pitch situation.
I feel sorry for them, because they're sitting up there as well in the first half, and they're watching this all unfold, but before their very eyes. Whatever hair they've got between the three of them, it was they were pulling it out, because it was just absolutely diabolical. And the word I would use at times was toxic in that first half of the fans forum. And the point that I made to Lawrence was the fact that you've now got supporters who can afford to go, but are choosing not to go, just out of principle. You've got supporters who want to go, but can't afford to go. And then you've got supporters who are just prepared to go to away games and give opposition their money. That's how bad and how strongly this resonates throughout the core. Look, as I say, we can all afford to pay the season tickets, but we're not going to. But the fact is, we weren't there because of us. We were there to raise the point on behalf of people who may or may not always be as brave to stand up and air their concerns against the owners. we were there for those faces who they don't always see and the voices they don't always hear. But rest assured that they are there and they are plenty. And I thought that Ian, Harry, and Bazza did a very good job in sort of turning around the whole atmosphere of the room, because it was quite something I'd never experienced before off the pitch at City. It wasn't pleasant in any way, but again, preventable. And I think just the ability, when you said that leadership, Tabs, the ability to listen is just as important about the ability to act. And I think that there's just a defiance, if nothing else, from the owners. And they're not for moving, and they're going to get what's coming to them, because ultimately when they're sitting there and the gates are down, you better hope that the team starts off with a good run of results. Otherwise, it's really going to look bleak early doors, and that's not what anyone wants. Nobody.
It's not just defiant, it is utter contempt for supporters. There's no two ways about it. Utter contempt. You look at the prices, you say that sheet was handed around, the prices we've got to pay, and you look at the other clubs, how can they do it? Quite simply, much smaller gates, much smaller prices. So where is our money going? Which black hole is it disappearing into? Right, I have actually bought a season ticket, an old Gits one, because the football club is in my blood, if you like, or any other stupid phrase you want to use. But I've had a message from someone on behalf of someone else they know who's got a season ticket in the past. Several years they've had one. They haven't renewed yet. They said that person is disillusioned with the football over the past couple of seasons, which is understandable. And they said the price increase is an absolute joke. What can you say to that person to get them to renew their ticket, or wouldn't you do it? Wouldn't try it?
Well, I mean, I think we're going to come on to this now, or shortly. I think you look at the squad that's being assembled. I think you've got to have trust in the management to get their side of the coin right first and foremost. I think, and they're doing that. You look at the quality of the players and the number of good players, and I don't think it has to be. Don't underestimate the task that Ian and Bazza have had. Basically, just building a squad, a competitive squad from the ground upwards, because it was pretty much everyone left. And I think what they've done, they've assembled a promising squad, that age-old mix of experience and youth and energy. And I think once results do start coming in, hopefully people will then start looking into coming back. But Tabs, for every one email or letter that you've had on this subject, Jake and I have had 2 or 3 or 4 more. These aren't isolated incidences. These aren't isolated people. As Jake said, people are opting to go watch Harpenden Town, for Christ's sake, than come and watch their own football club. Whether that's out of need, whether that's just out of resilience, I think, and just out of sort of purpose more than anything else as well. It's not a great look for the club. You can see the backlash from other teams who have commented. This isn't, the club are big on perception. Okay, they're big on about creating a visual legacy, but you can see the just the outpouring of just laughable comments and just dismay on social media about how we're going about this. We've had anchors of Sky News comment about it. We've had high profile footballers comment about it. This isn't going away. And I think the only way for that, to get back to your point, Tab, sorry, is that the only way for that person to come back is if the football saves the day. Results save the day. Maybe if we're challenging at the right end, maybe they have to swallow a bit of humility and just sort of go back to watching the Saints, as much as it will upset them, because they're having to pay above what they were. End of the day, as you say, Tabs, you are a fan. The football club is in your blood, and it's going to take something really, really monumental for people not to come and watch their team. But my God, the club are making it hard work for them to sort of do so.
Yeah, and deliberately so. One thing, Lee, you said this could easily have been avoided.
Yeah.
In what way? In what way would you back that up with?
Well, again, okay, so the club would have seen undoubtedly the backlash after the first couple of statements about the pricing. But they called the fans forum, they would have seen the absolute tirade of discontented fans on social media. They could have gone into that fans forum and said, right, we've come up with a plan. We've listened to you. Okay, you are our fans. We are only custodians. We have listened to you that have been coming for generations, and you've brought all your families, and we have decided to do this. Because at that point, we'd sold, 15 season tickets or something. You know, that could have been workable. We could have gone in with a revised finance plan, a revised strategy, and it could all have been now nipped in the bud there and then. That one night, they could have been done and sorted there and then. But instead, they chose to act in a way that it's right. I'm sorry to do this, but this is what's going to happen. So basically, he could have just worn an A-board saying, it doesn't matter what any of you say here tonight, it will not change my mind. And for someone in a position as a leadership role, it's very unnerving. Jokingly, the word dictatorship was being bandied around after a few pints during the interval. I wouldn't go as far as that, certainly, but it does smack of an inability to lead and understand and empathize with everyone in the room. Read the room. You know, we weren't going in there throwing rotten tomatoes at people. No one was, I believe, swore. No one really raised their voice in any sort of aggressive manner. These were really well-balanced arguments. And they're just the inability to absorb that as an owner, I think is worrying, because I look up to people who are in charge of our club, and you'd like to, yes, they're approachable, of course, but ultimately it's falling on deaf ears because it's irrespective of what you think. And you could put across the most articulate, well thought out counter argument for whatever they've done. They've got no desire to listen to us at all, none. And that was reiterated no more clearer than that fans forum. And I think, again, there were a lot of fans, new fans, who went to that fans forum for the first time, and they saw, I would say, some true colours that night.
There's a couple of reasons why I didn't go to the forum, Lee. One, because I don't want to be stuck in the same room as one person who was there speaking that night. It's bad enough being stuck in the same ground as him at times. So that's why I wasn't there. But getting back to the social media side of it, I don't follow it. Jake, has anything surprised you about what you found on social media for the last few weeks?
Not really, no. I think the opinions were pretty fair, even in the post since it's been continuing. Of course, there's some fans. I think some fans just want to focus on the football, and I do understand that, and I totally get that. And some of the football news has been very good over the last few weeks, but the social media comments have continued. It's been no surprise, and I think Lee said it's not going away. And of course, it will temper to an extent, of course. But you know, as the football approaches again, and people start thinking about ticket pricing, etc., it'll probably come back again, won't it? So, and like Lee said earlier, this puts a lot of pressure on the football side of things. I think there is talk of, this is helping us have a competitive budget and a budget that's going to be good. And then there was some sort of mixed information as to where our budget may feature in terms of the league this season. But the message was, this is a good budget. We're going to put together a good team. If you don't start well, that pressure is going to build very quickly, isn't it? Whereas, do we want that? I think that this team may need a bit of time to bed and get used to each other. But will they have that? I don't know. But in terms of social media, I don't think there's been anything surprising, has there, Lee, in terms of what we've seen?
No, and I feel sorry for the people behind the scenes who are having to deal with this. Every sort of time that their phone pings with a notification, you can imagine their soul just sinks a little bit deeper into their body. It is unfortunate, but again, I think what you say, Jake, is valid, mate. In so much that people are now looking for some sort of positivity to come out of the club, and there have been some nuggets. You know, there've been some good signings of late, and I think people need to look at the footballing side of things as opposed to want to look at the footballing side of things, just to give them an ounce of positivity going into the season, because the season starts basically pre-season starts on Saturday, you know, and before you know it, the first ball will be kicked in anger. And it's disappointing how this has all panned out. It's been a real summer of discontent. And I just hope now that, and I think Ian touched upon this, didn't he, on the night, he doesn't want that negativity to sort of filter its way down to the playing squad. I think if you listen to all of the player announcements, they've all mentioned the fans or the fan base in some sort of capacity in their interviews. And I hope that something can be done, something can be resolved. But the only way that they're going to get the fans back on side now is winning football games. Because I tell you what, we've not been doing a lot of that over the last sort of year and a half.
Yeah, you're right. If we get off to a good start, people will be aware of it, supporters. They'll keep an eye on it, even those who are only going to away games, who have given up on the club and going to games. They will be aware if we make a good start. But you will still have this arrogant leadership that has said, up yours to supporters, this is what we're doing. There was no way they were going to stand down at the fans forum and show humility and say, yeah, okay, can we compromise on this? That was never going to happen. So even if Ian Colehouse does get a good winning side from the start, he's still going to have his barrier of the prices. And it's not just the price, it's a lack of trust in the club now. That has been broken 100%. Respect for the owners has gone out the window completely with supporters. And the comments I've been getting from people, they've got no time for them at all now. And anything they do.
That is excellent. That's an excellent point. It's trust, isn't it? It's trust now. And I think there's a respect as well that has been lost. Lawrence and I have had our run-ins. We had one at the forum, didn't we, Jake? You know, there was a bit of something there.
Yeah.
And I was sticking up for Jake as well. I would have
was
now.
for once.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, yeah, you have to earn respect and you have to earn trust, and it takes a long time to earn that. But I tell you what, it doesn't take anywhere near as long to lose it, just by the quality of your actions. And I think that, yeah, it's disappointing all around, Dave. And your point about trust and respect is a very excellent one, because it's something that isn't always abundant at non-league levels. You know, players come and players go, but the fans are the fans are always the mainstay. And the way that some of them have been treated now, it's a long way back for them now.
Yeah, if it happens at all, if they will come back, we shall see. Right, anybody else want to add anything more on the tickets, or should we move on to the squad?
Can we move on to the squad?
Right, we lost in the summer. We lost, I think it was 17 players, which was an unprecedented number. We brought in, I think, as far as I can see, 12 new players so far, ranging from around about 21 years old up to 37. Also unprecedented is signing 3 players aged 35 and above. Everyone who's got in touch with me said old rather than experienced. They are very concerned about these players, particularly when you look at the number of games they played recently. You can understand their concern. Michael Bostwick is a leader, no doubt about that. But last time he played a game, 26th of November, as far as I can see, last year. Alex Dyer, 21 starting appearances last season, 32 appearances in all, 12 full games, 12 full 90-minute games, that is. Jamal Fifield, I mean, all these good players got great pedigrees, but you're going back a few years. He played 24 National League games for Braintree last year. Only 11 of them were full games, and only 1 full game since the 19th of February. Those players are risky. The goalkeeper, Magnus Norman, I don't think he played last season. He went to Dorking in was it January? He played one county cup tie. Didn't play any league games. Didn't play any league games. I forgot which other club he was at during the start of last season. He's hardly played in the last 2 seasons. So someone said in a message to me today, he's a big risk. He's got no form to call upon in the last couple of years. So supporters, ones who have been in touch with me, you might get a different feedback. 1 or 2 players, they said, yes, he's not bad. Sam Smart, what I've heard about him, quite good. But it's very few. They're taking a huge gamble. I'd like to see George Sippets from Coney. I've heard good and bad about him. His dad was a terrific goal scorer, so it'd be great to see how he gets on, local player. But the others, so many of them, with struggling clubs at a level lower than we were at last season, it's one hell of a gamble. It's possibly not their fault the clubs are struggling, but that's what supporters look at and they see, and they think, what are we doing?
So you mentioned quite a lot, you mentioned the word gamble and risk there. I don't think we can't lose anyway, because the fact is we are in unprecedented territory for quite some number of years now. And the fact of the matter is, okay, Jamal Fifield, he had a few injuries at Braintree, but he was very much a part of their mainstay, and some of the reason why they've been so successful over the last few years. Boswick, I get a bit more, but again, these are players who've been dabbling with a few leagues above us and beyond. They've got a chip on their shoulder and maybe something to prove. I don't mind getting some younger players because that's what we need to bolster out the squad. But then we can get some nuggets in there. Who knows? And again, the one thing we've always said religiously all through last year is that we have that belief that Ian Culverhouse and Paul Bastock can get that right blend. The one I am particularly pleased with is Lewis Page. I know a lot about him from when I was doing some work with Dagenham. Excellent player, really excellent. And you say about he's only 29. So again, he's the perfect age, still, experienced, but, the right side of that dreaded 30 bracket that people seem to sort of target as though once you hit 30, you'll be, watching Countdown and eating soft food. But I think, we mentioned the word journeyman, but it's a real asset to this squad. Lewis Page. Alex Dyer, again, really good player. And you'd like to think that, I don't know whether you've had time to watch this, Tabs, but about an hour ago, the club put a little snippet of Ian Culverhouse at training, and the reiteration of the unity and creating a bond and creating a teamwork ethic and creating like a strength between every single one, because there's whole new faces. Everyone is new, and you've got to learn how each other works. And I think the sooner they can get that unity together, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. We've got to go into the season looking at the squad of who we've got. Yes, there are some unknowns there, Dave. I'm not trying to paper over the fact we've got some world beaters in there by any stretch. But you know what? They want to play for this club, mate, because there's 17 people who last year didn't. So I think for the fact of the matter is, mate, the squad that we've assembled, they want to be here. So I will drink to that, and the fact that hopefully they can get some wins along the way as well.
What about you, Jake? What's your take on the squad, the signings that we've made so far, a dozen signings?
I think last time we spoke on the podcast, we talked about how we didn't really have much experience, didn't we? And we've probably gone so far to the other way now with that. Yeah, it's a real mix, isn't it? I think interesting. I think a few tidbits from the forum was how Harry Wheeler spoke about how they're hoping some of these younger players, there might be a few diamonds in the rough, potentially, that they could then maybe look at selling on, which was interesting to hear because quite often football clubs don't talk about that. And how last season, I think we talked about this a lot last season, there was no leaders on the pitch, was there, at all? And they've almost gone the other way now. There is going to be quite a few on the pitch this season. Will it work in terms of age, etc.? We don't know. But there are going to be leaders. And they mentioned how in crucial moments last season, the squad just didn't have the bottle and the fight. And I think this season, there is hopefully an opportunity that there will be that. And I am glad to see some experience added to the squad. It was missing, wasn't it? And it was the kind of players we screamed out for in terms of signing last season to try and get us out of the mire and now we've got it. So we'll see how that go. And it's Lee, you mentioned unknowns. This season definitely feels like that going into. I mean, opening game of the season. Of course, we don't know what the fixtures are yet, but I don't know if we're going to win 5-0 or lose 3-0. Like, it is so hard to say. This squad is just so new. It's really interesting, and I just hope that these players do step up, and they aren't just names. They can perform. It's worth mentioning, Dave, you say about those games they've played. I mean, that was in the National League for most of them. This is 2 steps below now. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that quality steps through. So, yeah, I think there's still question marks, definitely, over some of them. I've got faith in Ian and Bazza, and I wouldn't be shocked if you still see 1 or 2 more, because I think Harry mentioned that there's some changes to the substitution rules this coming season, so the squad will probably need to be bigger to deal with that in terms of in the Isthmian League. So that'll be interesting. And will we see a certain goalkeeper signed potentially as well? There's still lots of rumours flying about of a certain former City goalkeeper signing. So you don't. Can
you
know.
Still see that? Can you? I mean, I know he's been traded with the club, but I think having Magnus Norman there, I mean, okay, he's had his injuries, and we've seen firsthand what can happen to a keeper when he has his injuries. It takes a while for them to get that confidence and that ability, that cockiness back into their game and that stability. Yeah. I think that if fit, I think he can absolutely be on number 1. I mean, I've looked online. I didn't know too much about him, so we've done some research, and it very much seems to be either feast or famine in so much whether he's good or he's bad. But again, that's all boiled down to his injuries he's had, the timings of the injuries, and look, getting an injury-prone goalkeeper isn't great. We just got shot one of them. So, but I think the fact is, you're looking at someone who wants to be here. His caliber is good. His pedigree is good. He has played at a higher level, and he's played well at a high level. So let's embrace that. I think everyone's here for a fresh start, and hopefully Bazza especially can get something out of Norman.
He's barely played in the last 2 seasons, Magnus Norman. Bazza has got a big job getting him. Well, he needs a run of games, obviously, to see if he's good enough. I keep hearing disparaging things, which I want to give him a chance, but his history is not great, and he's got to prove himself early on, because we can't be carrying a goalkeeper straight away. You keep saying about Culverhouse, he's got to be hit the ground running in effect this season, and he certainly has, if he's to win back those supporters, and also to avoid the wrath of those who are there, who, if it is going badly, they won't be slow to voice their spleen, vent their spleen, when they paid this big money, and they suddenly say, we're now at a lower level and we're still struggling. What the hell is going on? They're not going to be slow to criticise the club.
Yeah.
It's a tall order for Ian Culverhouse.
Supporters, whether they're there or not in attendance, are going to be expectant this season. We're in the Isthmian League, things being talked about. We have brought in high-profile names, even if they might not be the youngest. And we don't want to fall into the trap that we did last season with high-profile names that we did sign. But there's going to be a lot of pressure there. And when you look through the squad, to be fair, I'd say in defence, I think we look really good at fullback. We've got great options there. So much so that I wouldn't be shocked to see maybe 1 or 2 of them maybe potentially push forward and feature in other areas. The midfield, I mean, when you've got Zane Banton in there, that's always a massive help, isn't it? And we've got a few decent options. You said Sam Smart, Nick Ralph, maybe not. But Alex Dyer, Aziz Kone, Riley Scott, we've heard decent reports. My only concern potentially is the forward areas. We've got Harrison Smith there, who we know can score goals, as long as he stays fit. The other lads, apart from Alex Wall, who is experienced, but maybe isn't necessarily the goal scorer you'd expect, the other lads do feel a bit of a punt, don't they? So it'd be interesting to see, will it all just be on Harrison Smith, or will other strikers step up in terms of scoring goals? But I think there's a core there of a decent starting 11 team. I think it's just going to be hard to know, because none of us know what the Isthmian League is like, do we? It's been so long since we've back down at this level. It's going to be interesting to see how the other teams work, whether they find us out pretty quickly, whether pace will be an issue for us or against us. It'll be interesting to know.
Yeah, what forwards have we got? We've got Harrison Smith, as you mentioned. And I think, actually, if we give him decent service, he will have a very good season. If he can stay injury-free. He's got a terrible record with injuries. But if he can avoid that, I think he's one player who could stand out this season. You've got George Sippets, I think it's worth taking a punt on him.
Yeah.
We'll see where it works. Now, got Leo Seri, who was with Hendon last season. Did they not get relegated?
Yeah.
That's a punt. Other ones we've got.
Jasper Mayfair was from.
Oh yes,
he was Bognor, wasn't he?
Wasn't he?
And
Yeah.
to be fair, I would say I heard good things about him actually, in terms of not great Bognor side, but he scored 10 or 12 goals. Positive things about him.
Not a great Bognor side. Is there any other type of Bognor side?
Well, according to the Isthmian League side, he scored 15 goals for Bognor last season, but they went down as well, didn't they? And got them from midfield rather than the forward, if that's correct. 15 in 48 games. Don't know. There's a lot of gambles in there. If a couple come off, great. He said about get players in, Jake, the younger ones, and sell them on, which is what every non-league club sells. Oh, we got young players, we bring them through, we nurture them correctly, and we sell them on. It happens so rarely nowadays.
It does, but then I don't know. It still happens, doesn't it? Lee wants to say something.
No, I was just going to say I'm not getting the positive vibes that last forward tabs.
The club don't deserve it, Lee. That's a problem. And when you look at what they brought in so far, you just hope they can blend it all together.
Well, it's a thankless task, isn't it? Because the fact of the matter is, the management side have got to somehow amalgamate all these 17 or 20 individuals into a squad that's capable of winning football games. Now, we spoke about the importance of us hitting the ground running, but that's like the best scenario where the squad have been together for 2 years, 3 years. Ian's got to get this done now, because ultimately it's going to get. We spoke about this when we were in the Southern Prem. The year we went up, that was the year we had to get out, because things were getting harder, the opposition were getting harder, and thank God we had Frendo's goals to get us out. I think we're going to need a similar sort of mindset, because the longer we're in the Isthmian, it's going to be so much harder to get out of. The first time to sort of do it, Ian Culverhouse is trying to create a culture. He spoke about this at the fans forum, where he wants people to buy in to what he's trying to establish here. And Harry spoke about it with passion as well. The fact that they do their due diligence on all of these players. It's not just they're going to go out and he scored 15 goals for this team. He scored 10 goals. He's good. Let's just get him in and see what happens. They go through a process, and that's great. That's fantastic, because that's what you want to happen. But again, you need a return for that. You need to have the rewards of that work you put into these players early doors, to scout them and get them to a place where you want them to be. But ultimately, they've got to hit the ground. They've got to sort of stop gelling sooner rather than later. Obviously, you spoke about the fans getting on the players' backs. I think City fans are a bit more patient, I would say. They've got a little bit of a honeymoon period, but not a lot, because we're in the Isthmian League. We want to get out of this. We want to start winning games of football. The sooner they can start doing that, the better it's going to be in the long run, obviously.
With regards to the players we've signed, I don't know if you two have heard anything. One of the consistent questions I get from supporters is, are they Ian Culverhouse signings? Obviously, some of those clearly are contacts from the past. Other ones, would he have known these ones? Who knows? Because you just hope it's not the people who made the decisions last year that brought the players in. Ian's experience, you hope, would bring in a better class than what we saw last year, and blend them into a team, and not a team that goes backwards all the time, a team that actually tries to win games, which I think would be more consistent with his past as a manager.
I mean, this was mentioned at the forum, wasn't it, Lee? And it was discussed that it is very much a mixed approach and a team effort to making these signings. I mean, one of the first questions was, what does the football director of football do at this level of football? So, that was
a weird one, wasn't it? Because I mean, it was. Harry explained what a director of football normally does at a football club, but then he went on to say that this is not what happens here, and it's. I think as long as there's an understanding and everyone's reading from the same sheet is as regards to Harry, Bazza, and Ian. I don't really care how they get here. If the thing is, it was said that the bottom, like the final word, is with Ian, and that's, I think, how it should be. Again, we can't. People got ideas about, we're going to go and get this such a player from Dorking or this such a player from whatever. That doesn't happen at clubs at our level now, because we've got to build up again. We go, Tabs, you spoke about that word, trust and respect. Ian Culverhouse has got that a little bit, but he's got to build that up through the players he signed and the results he gets subsequently from that. It's going to be hard for him. Let's not muck around now. The Isthmian League is an unknown to us, but there's some good sides there, and you can see that, can't you?
And there was a lot of talk about budgets of other teams, wasn't there?
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
Some of the figures mentioned for some of the other clubs are eye-watering, aren't they? I mean, at least one is what I think reported double ours, as it stands at the minute.
Yeah. Come on then, Jake, what were they? Come on.
Well, there wasn't really. I think Billericay was mentioned as name, wasn't it, Dave and Lee? Sorry, and then it's all the usual suspects: your Dartfords, who else was it? Oh, I can't remember now. All the clubs that you would expect, plus one or two others that have joined the division now are already spending money. They are spending a lot this summer, and there's a lot of competition for signings. So in some respects, it's actually not a surprise maybe that we haven't had every single signing being a name that we know. So it's going to be interesting to see, and it's going to be a very hard division. I think we knew that, but I think that was re-emphasised at the forum.
So they didn't mention any figures at all?
No, just Billericay was probably at least double ours. I think that was the only one mentioned, wasn't it, Lee?
Well, that means nothing, does it? It's just plucking something. Yeah, but you're right. Billericay, I think Chatham, Dartford, it was another one, Folkestone, another one as well. They are rumoured to be spending big money, but we haven't seen any figures at all, have we? And that's for our budget. And you mentioned it. Did they say if it's going to be the same as last season? Did they say it's going to be more? Did they say it's going to be less? It surely cannot be less. They said to keep us competitive. Well, they did a great job on keeping us competitive on it last season, didn't they?
I think the word was slightly increased, wasn't it, Lee, from what I remember?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, whatever that means.
It means it's more.
Oh, right. Okay. Whoopie-doo. Right, a friendly start this weekend, didn't they? Some godforsaken reason we're going down to blooming Maidstone. They're a league higher than us, and we're the away side. Anyway, any thoughts on this?
Can't wait.
Are you going, Jake?
Yeah, you go, Dave.
I intend to go, yeah. Christ knows why. It's going to be lonely. It's going to be very lonely.
I hope they treat you with as much respect down there as they treat all away fans when they go down there. Had such fun at Maidstone in the last couple of years, haven't we?
I don't understand it at all. Why we're going there? Oh, we've got another game next Wednesday as well. Is it Wednesday next week? Against another kids? Yeah, against some kids team, isn't it?
Oh God, is that Arsenal?
That's the one.
Oh my goodness me! I can't believe the pre-season's here already. It's gone so quickly. And I will say, last summer, Lee, we poo-pooed Dave, didn't we, when he was telling us that the team didn't look good and the football he was worried about the new season. Turns out Dave is the pre-season whisperer. So when we meet again and Dave tells us we're all doomed, we might have to listen to him this time.
Yeah, but I wasn't going to sort of, jump on the bandwagon too quickly. I'm not going to raise my daughter in a world where David Tavener is correct about something. So it's really, I was sort of just quietly sort of trying to dismiss any of those.
That's one time in 55 years I got it right, Lee. It's not a bad record, is it?
Well, you were due then, mate, weren't you, really? So
actually, 70-71, I was quite confident we would do well, and we did. So that's two out of 55.
There we go.
You talk about old seasoned professionals. We got one right here, mate, on the pod.
I mean, we don't want to read too much into these fixtures, do we, at all? But it'll just be interesting to see how we get on. And, it's just going to be the long wait, isn't it, for the actual football to start now?
Yeah. Last time I looked at the Isthmian League site, they didn't have a clue when the fixtures are coming out. Still nothing?
I believe, isn't it either late next week or on the 18th of July? Late next week, 18th of July, apparently. I think.
What's that, about just after the first game, isn't it?
Indeed. Nothing like a bit of planning.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Why they can't be released at the same time or within a couple of days of the Football League ones, I really do not know.
The one thing that I've found over the last month or so, Dave, is that football and common sense doesn't always go hand in hand, my friend.
Depends who's running your club.
This is very true.
There you go.
So, yeah, keep an eye out for that, everyone. Hopefully we'll get some fixtures soon.
Mm.
Which game are you looking forward to, Dave?
What, in pre-season?
Yeah.
Have a last one, get rid of his friendlies are diabolical. They're nothing more than a chance for the manager to try and get a team to work together. But you feel God knows how many players in a friendly now. From a supporter's point of view, they are a complete utter waste of time. Anybody, right, last year I did read a bit into them and it wasn't far out. But to genuinely read something into it, you're stabbing in the dark. Because
and why are you going?
You don't often.
Why are you going?
Because I haven't got a life. It's because your last couple of games, you'd hope they'd put your strongest 11 out there, at least for the first half, and second game, the last game, but for the whole game practically. So we can really scare the opposition when the league season starts. Don't tell me you've got a life, Lee.
It can't be. You went to the fans forum.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I think Lee just Dave's other half has maybe had enough of him, so I think it's time for. Oh dearie me. Talking of which, it's probably time for us to go.
I think so. So. Thank you to everybody who come up and said hello at the fans forum. Unfortunately, it wasn't in more jovial circumstances. Thank you again for all the messages of support and the emails. And turns out, Tabs, considering you weren't at the fans forum, quite a lot of people watched the pod. So hello to everyone who does indeed dabble in a little bit of pod. Jacob is going to give you the information about how to get in touch, and hopefully we can air your grievances or your support and all of your voices on this pod throughout the course of the season. Indeed. Podful of Saints on Twitter, email description below. Lee, anything else? No, I'm done. I'm out, mate. I'm done. Dave, anything else? Look at him.
Just one question for both of you, and I think I know the answer. Will either of you be buying a season ticket?
Not at the minute.
No.
Last season?
Yeah, I had one last season.
There you go. So that's 50% of us who got one last season not getting one. So if that's replicated across our 1,700 average crowd, that's quite a blow. Anyway, we shall see. Hang on. Sorry to. We were almost done. One telling point. There was a impromptu question asked. A supporter got up at the fans forum and stood up, and he asked the entire room, how many people within the room are not going to be buying a season ticket? And pretty much everyone put their hand up. And I think that it was a very small representation of the fan base, but again, it's proportionate, right? So that should tell the club everything that they needed to know about how that evening was going to unfold. So, it was. Well, I've got to say, Lee, this is great news, because so many times last season, people who are obscure in my view now going to have a lovely view of the pitch, apart from all the obstructions which the club's management have put round the outside, trying to block it off so we don't see how bad it is. A good time to go, I think. Oh, dearie me. On that, we almost had a positive note. We did. We tried. We tried our best. Thank you all for watching, as Lee says, and we'll speak to you very soon. Don't know exactly when, but I'm sure we'll be back very, very soon. So thank you all, and come on, you Saints, for pre-season. Bye-bye, everyone.